Tonight we're going to talk about a word that most people outside of academia rarely ever speak of, and that word is philosophy. What is your philosophy? I am not talking about the philosophy of Aristotle or Isaac Newton or any of the greatest composers and literary artists centuries ago. Not from the scientific perspective of philosophy. But what is your core philosophy? What is your belief? See, because everything that you do in life is always based around a core set of beliefs, a philosophy that you live by. And sadly, most people have no idea what their philosophy is, yet they live day to day by a philosophy. They may not know that's what it's called. They may not reflect on it. They don't even realize that's what's taking place. The decisions that they make, the things that they do, the conversations that they have, the churches that they go to, the type of people that they marry, the neighborhoods you live in, the friends that you choose, which political party you may vote for, how much money you give to charity, how much are you willing to help others. Are you selfish or selfless? Everything is surrounded by a philosophy. Now, to understand, if you've never actually thought what your philosophy is, you must know where we come from to get to this point, because the bottom line is this. Where you are today is the sum result of every decision you've made in your life up until this point, which includes your bank account. And if you're not happy with where you are, you just look at the decisions you've made. But where do your decisions come from? Why do you decide that? Why do you think the way you do? What is your philosophy? Now, philosophy has always started off dictated by the environment you grow up in, the family that you're raised in. You have a family philosophy. It's a microcosm and a macrocosm. For example, if you grow up in the United States of America, every single American has a certain philosophy of being American. What does an American mean? Feeling that we are the best in the world, the greatest country that has ever been created in the history of mankind. We almost have not just an ego complex, but an entitlement complex when it comes to the world. We are Americans. Then you'll have regional philosophies, depending on which region of the United States you're from. West Coast people think differently and act differently than East Coast. Southerners think differently and act differently than Northerners. And even in your region, you may have a different set of philosophies based on which communities you live in. Are you in the upper class or the lower class? Are you segregated by race, religion, or creed? See, by living in any of these type of regions, you will develop a certain set of philosophies. And even though you live in a region, which church you go to, what race are you raised in? What is your economic status? See, all of these things contribute to your early philosophy growing up. Also, the times that you live in. So you have to understand, things changed at the turn of the last century. The last century, and I don't mean the 21st century, I'm talking about the 20th century. The development of mankind has rapidly changed. Technology has rapidly changed. Technology has allowed us to be able to reach across the oceans and interact with other races and other cultures and other countries in ways that over the last 6 millennia has never been done before. And when you have interactions and new interactions is being introduced to your environment, that will start to change or have an effect on your philosophy of life. You're no longer isolated to just your little corner or region of the world. And your ability to adapt, to attain and learn new philosophies will dictate how successful that you ultimately can become. So you have to understand that your philosophy is like the sails on a ship. The winds are always blowing. But depending on which direction your philosophy is pointing in, determines which way you blow. Some of us have had the bad luck of the draw, where you're no longer personally responsible on what your philosophy actually is, because that's what you were grown with. That's what you were born into. You were born into that family. You didn't choose it. But there comes a point in everybody's life where you can tear up the current philosophy you have and rewrite and make yourself a new one. Human beings are the only creature on this planet that has the ability to do so. See, every other animal is based on genetics, instinct, and to a certain extent, so are human beings. But we're also blessed with the ability to choose, the ability to become more, to do more, to have more. And that's a choice. Unfortunately, most people are complacent with their current circumstances. They may want more and wish more, but their philosophy inhibits them from ever gaining more out of life. You have to understand that the high drama is the game of life. And how you play that game is based on your philosophy, if you're even playing it to begin with. So your philosophy will allow you to be the pawn on a chessboard or the queen. If you want more out of life, you have to become more. I love what Jim Rohn says, and Jim Rohn, what a wonderful man. A man that I've never met, but who I consider my personal mentor. Even though he has passed on, he has laid a foundation and a record of his philosophy, which I've adopted as my own. And one thing that he said that really touches me is that success is something that you attract by becoming an attractive person. The more attractive you are, the more people you will attract to you. How do you become an attractive person? Well, it's based on your philosophy. Do you have a philosophy of wanting to become more? See, for those of you who still don't really understand what I'm saying, you think I may be speaking in code. There's many different types of philosophies out there. Here, let's look at the job force, for example. You have the philosophy of minimum wage. The philosophy of minimum wage. You know what that means is a person believes that the only way they can earn some money is the bare basics is by getting a job that pays minimum wage. They don't know anymore. They don't strive for anymore. And that's how they know to make some money, by minimum wage. Then you have others that have the philosophy of waiting. See, these people will wait on either someone else to do something for them, or wait on the company to pay them more money. They may wait for the next corporate annual review that will move you from minimum wage to earning just a little bit more money, maybe $2 raise. But how often is that review taking place? Every 6 months? Year? 2 years? So you're waiting every 2 years to move up $1.50 for your income. At least that's a little bit better than the philosophy of minimum wage. Then you have others that have the philosophy of demand. See, these are people that demand more than what they have. If they're not happy with what they're earning from the company, they'll go on strike and try to force the company's hand, force somebody to give them something. Philosophy of demand is demanding that the government takes care of us, demanding that the government provides for us, demanding that the company just give us what we want. The philosophy that I've adopted is a philosophy that my grandfather taught me. See, one thing that my grandfather's taught, and he taught my father this. He said that no matter what you do in life, be the best that you can possibly be. If you're a street sweeper, you be the best street sweeper there ever was. If you're a janitor, you be the best janitor you possibly could be. See, this is the philosophy of performance. The philosophy of performance basically means do more than what you're getting paid for. Do more than what you're getting paid for. That goes contrary to the philosophy of demand. See, demand is you demand something whether you actually deserve it or not. But philosophy of performance is work harder than what people actually expect of you. If you use this philosophy in business, this is the understanding that you always give more in value than what you're charging for in cost. Give people more than what they're paying for. Work harder on your job than what they're paying you to do. This allows you to become valuable. This allows you to become more attractive. And as a result, more doors will be open for you. This is a philosophy that most people ignore. The philosophy of performance. Something else that Jim Rohn says is, work harder on yourself than you do on your job, because by working harder on yourself, then you put yourself in a position to be more qualified than the job you currently have, and qualified to get a better job paying you more money. Philosophy of performance basically means putting life in your own hands, not having it dictated to you by somebody else. One of the greatest tragedies in America today is that you can be, have, and do whatever you want with no limitations on you. As my pastor says, most people have unlimited rocket performance and potential, but are satisfied with living firecracker lives. Is that you? Do you have unlimited potential in living a firecracker life? See, there's no excuse in America because anybody could wish and desire and achieve whatever they want. There's no limit to how much land you can purchase. There's no limit to how much money you can have. There's no limit to how much education you could personally have. There's no limit to how many companies you can start, how many homes you can own, how many cars you can own. That's one of the greatest benefits of a capitalistic society as opposed to a communist society. There's no limit in America. Over history, it hasn't always been that way. In history, you got what the kingdom gave you or allowed you. Or you can only become depending on what your birthright is. Are you highborn, lowborn, connected? So no matter how great you were, you never could move up. And that's still how it is, unfortunately, in a lot of countries around the world. Which is why so many people are trying to get to America. But those native-born Americans take this for granted. And we're settling in our lives because we have never changed our philosophy that we've learned as a child. We are taught a certain way. We live lives that same certain way. We teach our children that same certain way, who repeat the process. Hence is called the rat race. Everybody's doing what they're told to do. But when you have immigrants that come to America, and they have that philosophy of hard work, that philosophy of performance, within 2 generations they're millionaires. And they look upon Native Americans as if squandering such a wonderful opportunity. But it all goes back to your philosophy. In America, you can always have more than what you've currently got because you've become more than who you are. If you have a philosophy of personal development, if you don't like where you currently are, you can always change your current circumstances. You can always work to become a better person. One thing that I love to read from a wonderful author by the name of Wallace D. Wattles, and he wrote a book called The Science of Getting Rich. And he said that success is not in doing certain things, but success is in doing things a certain way. Your philosophy dictates how you do certain things. Is the glass half full or half empty in your life? How do you look at situations that happen to you? So you must understand that your income is primarily determined by your philosophy, not the economy. Wealthy people make money in a good economy and a bad economy because of their philosophy about life, their philosophy about money, their philosophy about growth and change. Does your philosophy allow you to operate during bad times, during negative times? When things aren't going your way, how do you react? This is something that I struggled with for a very long time. I had the philosophy of demand, not the philosophy of performance. That doesn't mean that I was not a hard worker. I was a hard worker. But I was always still waiting for someone to give something to me, for something to fall in my lap, for all things to come in alignment without much real effort on my behalf. I figured just because I'm a good guy, just because I have a great heart, that I'm entitled to good things to happen for me. And that's not how the universe works. Your performance will always dictate your main status in life. Your performance. See, my philosophy had a major shift when I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. That's the first time my philosophy had a major switch. If you haven't read that book, I encourage you to read it. But it gave a comparison between the poor dad who had a certain philosophy about life and the rich dad who had a different philosophy about life. One thing that is very important to understand is that no matter what decision you make, no matter what philosophy you have, that is the right one for you at this time. That's the right philosophy for you, because that is where your personal development currently is. And you always want to be striving for more, striving for better. And again, I'll go back to Wallace D. Wattles. Success is not in doing certain things, but in doing things in a certain way. Here's an example on how I had my aha moment on that. By not doing anything different, but approaching the issue a certain way. You see, I had a wish and desire that I wanted to make $10,000 a month. And looking at what I was currently working with at the time, there was absolutely no way possible that was going to happen. There was no way I was going to earn $10,000 a month. The problem was that was how I was looking at my philosophy. My philosophy looked at always trying to find a solution to a problem. Why? Because I read somewhere that millionaires are problem solvers. So I implemented that in my life. Become a problem solver. Only problem was I had no way knowing how to solve this current problem. I had no way of knowing. But I was looking at my life, looking at the situation through a magnifying glass. I was looking for a way to solve the problem instead of focusing on what my actual desire was. See, when you're operating through life with a magnifying glass, you're only able to see what is in that magnifying glass. You're not able to see what's taking place outside of the magnifying glass that is going to contribute to you getting what you desire. See, this was a very, very important lesson that I learned that changed my life. There's a gentleman by the name of Kevin Trudeau, and he said, focus on your desire and what you want, without worry about how you're going to make it happen. Don't worry about the how. Once you make a decision, things will work itself out if, see, this is not the philosophy of waiting, this is the philosophy of performance. If you continue to work hard in the direction that you want to go. See, again, most people never take this step. So you combine philosophy of performance with Wallace D. Wattles, that success is not in doing certain things, but doing things in a certain way. with the philosophy of work harder on yourself than you do on your current job. The philosophy of that you can have more than you've got just because you can become more than what you currently are. By knowing that the philosophy of success is that success is something you attract by becoming an attractive person. By developing this philosophy, whether right or wrong, it's guaranteed to get you certain results. It's time and proven successful to work over and over and over again. So what is your philosophy? Which direction is the sail on the ship sailing in your life? Are you content with where you currently are? Or do you want more? See, during my transformation of my philosophy, when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad for the 10th and 15th time, and I decided I wanted to have the philosophy of wealthy people first and foremost. Now remember, at the very beginning I told you there's different stages of philosophy depending on your culture, your company that you might be a part of, your childhood, where you were raised, your environment, where you live. And you can toss all of that out the door and give yourself a new philosophy. The philosophy of the 1%. The philosophy of performance. The philosophy of doing things and acting in a certain way. And in this philosophy that I've developed is one thing I've learned. You cannot be successful by yourself. You cannot be highly successful without the help of other people. Now there's different varying degrees to this, because you can point to many individuals who are very successful and some of the worst people in the world as far as attitude and how they treat other people, and you wonder how they even got to where they are. It came with a sacrifice. But that's not the only way to have success in corporate America. You know, I listened to a video from A.L. Williams, a speech he did in 1989. And he said that, you know, one economic theorist said that he hadn't found proof or evidence of one successful person who hadn't had just one mindset of focus, cutthroat focus, and almost domineering personality trait, that is all they focused on. Obsessive, one-track mind at the cost of family and friends. And A.L. Williams said, if that's the price of success in America, then that's not what I want. See, there's many ways of getting somewhere, and as Wallace D. Waddell states, it's not in just the competitive field, but the ability to create something out of nothing. Your philosophy will determine if you're able to do that, because there's going to be a whole lot of hardships along the way. There's going to be a lot of obstacles that's going to hold you back. There's going to be a lot of people that's going to tell you, no, it can't be done. I guarantee things will never go according to plan. But what separates those who have from those who do not are the people who have the philosophy of quitting, because the glass is always half empty, and the people who decide that the glass is always half full, and this failure or this setback or this obstacle is just a result and a learning lesson to move to the next level. Do you have the philosophy of a quitter? See, currently, when you're dealing with people, one thing is that people will always let you down. And that's okay, because people's number one interest is themselves. So they'll make decisions that they feel is in their best interest, but it actually can hurt you in the process. Should they not make that decision just to please you? Absolutely not. That's their decision. That's their philosophy. And it's time to move on. But how you react to things like this that happen in your life is going to set the tone for everything. It's not what you do, but how you respond to things that happen to you that make all the difference in the world. I have had many setbacks in the past, many business partners who let me down, who stabbed me in the back, who jumped ship to the latest, greatest, nicest skirt that they see walking down the street because they think the grass is greener somewhere else. But my philosophy allowed me not to ever lose a night's sleep over any of these, because I recognize that these are just issues. They're just results. And we can always change the type of results that we want to get. The philosophy of performance. The philosophy of working on yourself. One thing that I tell you when I say all the time about personal development is that every single successful person that's able to maintain their success has gone through some form of personal development. And the broke people in the world laugh at personal development. They look at it as if it's some hocus pocus, new age thing. And they talk themselves right on out of an opportunity. See, when you have the philosophy of performance, doors open to you that you're able to recognize that if you didn't have the philosophy of performance, you would have never seen. You would have never heard of. So what is your philosophy? Are you willing to change? Are you willing to learn? And if not, go right on back to your cubicle, where you belong with the other 97% of America. And that's okay. There's no bad or right in this. Each individual has their own core philosophy. I have found through my experience, there's a couple of things that's woven into my philosophy that can never be undone. Just a couple of things. Number one, learn how to treat people with respect. See, this may seem like it's small, but treat people the way you want to be treated yourself. Learn how to treat people with respect, because you're going to be working with people. Number two, give out recognition and praise, which means ultimately don't always think about you and your issues 24/7. 24 hours a day, and all you're doing is focused on you. Spend some time, 30 minutes to an hour, where you actually think about somebody else and their well-being. That's an important concept. Very important concept, actually, when you think about that. Next is the philosophy of commitment. If you say you're going to do something, then do it. Commitment basically means doing something you say you're going to do long after the feeling and excitement has subsided. You have to commit to whatever it is you're doing and see it through without losing focus. It's very important. The next is philosophy of communication. Learn the skill of communicating. This is another skill that is very lacking in most Americans. Most people have absolutely no idea how to communicate. One thing that I learned is the feel, felt, found method that has really changed my life when dealing with people. People always want to know how much you care, not how much money you're going to make off of them. And they can pick that up very quickly. Philosophy of performance. Communication. Commitment. Desire. These are all things that could be in the mindset training, that it all comes down to your own personal philosophy. These are skills that over the years I have learned to master, and I'm always still learning, which allows me to have the type of success that I have. I learned to work with people. I learned to be able to make compromises. It is part of my philosophy. Nothing is ever set in constant stone. You have to be willing to adapt. You have to be willing to change. But you need to know what it is that you want in the first place. Most people's philosophy is like going on a cruise ship to nowhere. You ever heard of that? The cruise to nowhere? Where the ship just circles out in sea for a couple of days and then returns to port. And you think you went sailing. So it's very important to understand, and I don't want to keep everybody too long here tonight. But you want to find out and determine what your philosophy is, how it is impacting your life right now. Is your current philosophy getting you to what you want? And if not, are you willing to change your philosophy? Are you willing to add to it? Are you willing to make adaptations? That's going to allow you to change and adapt with the times. Unfortunately, our educational system is still teaching kids the same antiquated and outdated material and philosophy from over 150 years ago. It has never changed, yet life has dramatically changed over the last 150 years. Life as we know it is not the same. But we are not being taught that in school. Your children aren't being taught that in school. They're not taught the power of philosophy, the power of having a goal set outside of just getting my GED. And when you graduate, getting a job. See, these are very, very important information for you to understand and start to work on. You will never be finished with this journey of redefining your own personal development. But it will make the journey a little bit easier, if that makes sense. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end it at this now. I could go on for a couple of hours talking about what is your philosophy and how is it impacting your life. And if you're not happy with the way it's impacting your life, get a new philosophy. God bless and good night. Bye-bye.